I should say hello. Good morning. Welcome to Pilates Strength. So a few of the guys are kind of feeling some shouldery stuff. So we'll do a little bit of that and then I'll kind of go into the plan. We're going to use a Franken ball or a soft massage ball. If you don't have that, like a tennis ball will work quite well. Worst comes to worst, try a lacrosse ball at the back of your shoulder, okay? But ideally something more soft. And what you're going to do is place it at the back of your shoulder. So kind of between your shoulder blade and your arm, okay? So it kind of pushes the shoulder forward a little bit. And then you're just going to do a series of little openers, okay? So you're going to open and have the palm kind of facing up. So it kind of opens the front of the shoulder. That feels really nice. And then you're going to do a little internal rotation to bring your hand kind of down by your side. Let me just take my top off so you can see what I'm doing. That would help. Okay, so I've got it at the back of the shoulder, in between my shoulder blade and my arm. And then I'm kind of offering into a little external rotation, my palm and my shoulder to the sky. And then doing a little internal rotation. So the palm kind of faces down. So external rotation open. And then internal rotation down. So you should feel a little bit of movement in your shoulder blade. Okay, so the shoulder blade is kind of gliding as your arm bone is rotating. I have the elbow slightly bent so that I'm really focusing on the humerus. Make sure there's no clunking or cracking as you do this. Yeah, give me a little thumbs up. That feels nice. Yeah, feel that? Feels really open. Oh, yeah, good. That's for you, Roseanne. Okay, and then what I like to do is kind of have the arm hovered a little bit. And can you traction your arm? So feel very lightly like someone's pulling your arm away from your body. Okay, so I'm kind of pulling my arm towards the camera and then letting it release. So I want you to feel not a muscular feeling, but an elastic feeling. So I'm not overstretching it. What I'm doing is trying to feel like my humerus is moving away from my collarbone. And I feel a little bit of a nerve kind of opening. So this opens up if you're very trapped in this front of the shoulder. So I'm just tractioning that arm. I've got it hovered. It's not on the floor because I don't want it to be kind of dropped into tension. And space. And you might find your shoulder blade kind of glides along your ribs a little bit as well, which is good. So you might feel your shoulder blade kind of gliding, and maybe do one more because I don't want my fingers to kind of get cut off of circulation. And then you could do a little bit more of your goalpost position that we've been doing. So a little bit more of a bent elbow rotation. And maybe exploring a little bit more of a arm arc. So now I start to think about the movement coming from a little bit lower down my body. So as I'm going into a little arm arc, I kind of think of the movement happening from my pelvis all the way up and underneath the arm. That feels quite nice. Is that still okay for you, Roseanne? Cool. Okay, one more time. And then release. Now you should feel a big difference in your shoulders when you take that ball away. It should feel like your shoulder is really on the floor and really connected, and the other side almost feels like it's pushing up. Do you guys feel the difference? Okay, so pop that underneath the other shoulder, in between your shoulder blade and your arm. And then we'll start with that just kind of light internal, external rotation with more of a long arm. Okay. So it's very, very soft. I think about my arm being very feather-like. Oh, it feels really nice. So having that spiral in the arm is really, really important because the pectorals, as they come across the body and as they feed into the shoulder and down into the bicep, it's all very spiral. Wow, this is really so much tighter. So just do a few more. If you feel more tight here, if this is your right-handed side and you're handed on this side, then you might need a little bit longer. Okay, then I hover it and do a little bit of traction. I have a feeling that this arm won't traction very much. Okay, compared to my left side, I really felt my humerus was able to move away from my trunk. You might even want to put your other hand at the front and just guide it very softly. So I'm just encouraging the arm to just traction away from my collarbone, really gently. You might not need that hand out on front, but if you feel you're getting a little bit stuck, then you might just want that little bit of coaching. Okay, so you want to feel like it's very elastic, and then it kind of recoils itself back to where it was. Okay, go into your little goalpost position. So we're still spiraling, but it's a slightly more bent elbow. You don't have to necessarily go down, right? If you're getting clunky and crunching as you turn your arm this way, which I am, then I don't take it so far. I go in the range that feels like it needs it. Feel how the shoulder blade is moving, and then start to make it a little bit more of an arm arc. So feel like the arm is coming from the back of the pelvis and up the side waist. And feel how that shoulder blade is really gliding up and down as the arm moves. Oh, it feels very nice. One more. And release, and then let's see how those shoulders feel. Ah, they feel very nice on the mat now. Maybe just do a few little arm arcs here now that you're in the middle, and just start to feel your pelvis connection to the mat, your rib connection to the mat, and feel how easy that is for you. Does it still feel a little bit sticky? And if it does, notice where the stickiness is. Can you maybe create more rotation in your collarbone? Can you allow your shoulder blades to glide up a little bit more? Maybe they're stuck. Or sometimes just feeling like the arms are coming from the back of your pelvis up, just having that appreciation of them coming from your back is quite nice. Okay. And release. And while we're here, let's just do a little bit of our pelvic work. And then when we come into our front, we'll do a little bit with this med ball. So bring your feet in line with your sitting bones, have your head blocks behind your head. Take a nice deep breath. Actually, I'm not going to say deep breath. I'm going to say soft breath. So take a nice soft breath in through your nose, almost so you're feeling your inhalation kind of tickles your nose hairs. And let that take your pelvis down. So nice soft inhale. And as you exhale, nice and soft across your lips. Try not to force the air out, like just a soft breath out. So inhale, tickle your nose hairs, roll the pelvis down. Exhale, soft, rolling back up. And you might find that you breathe in and out through the nose. So sometimes when I'm a little bit calmer in my movement, I find myself breathing in and out through the nose. And it's not a problem. But see if you can allow your breath to go out your mouth so you feel a little sigh in your ribs. So as I'm going to 12, I want to feel a little bit like my ribs are sighing to kind of meet my pelvis. And then it's like the pelvis moves away from the ribs, and then my ribs sigh to meet the pelvis as I come to 12. Let's just slide one leg down. I feel like I want to open up my hip a little bit here before we go into bridge. So I'd like you to slide your leg down and let the other one come up. You can hold it if you like. But what I'd like you to feel is that the back of the leg kind of gently presses down into the floor. So this long leg. And I want you to feel like your pelvis is in maybe more of a 12 position. So your sacrum is really on the ground. And as I push down into my long leg, I just get a really active opening through the front of my hips. I'm almost trying to get the back of my leg to press into the floor, but not the back of my knee. So I have to be careful I don't just push the back of my knee down. And then slide it back up and change sides. So keep the sacrum on the ground, and then pressing gently down through your long leg. Toes up to the sky, knees up to the sky, hip up to the sky. So make sure your leg isn't turned outward as you're pressing, that it's really parallel. And if you have the Franklin ball, pop that underneath your pelvis. If you don't have a Franklin ball, don't use the lacrosse ball. Use either the soft squashy ball or a roller for this, okay? Just get your Franklin ball underneath on your sacrum, okay? Or your roller or your soft ball, and then do that same hip stretch. So make sure it's not in your butt crack, that it's on your sacrum, okay? So it's on the round bit, and then as you push through your leg, you've got a little bit more wibbly wobblies going on. Can you still push down into the floor with that single leg and feel the active opening through the front? Slide it back, have a little wiggle wobble in the middle, and then slide to the other side, press down. So notice how I don't actually straighten my leg. If I straighten my leg, my pelvis tips down into 6. So I'm trying to keep the weight on the ball and then actively press into the leg. Okay, now we're going to make this a little bit more dynamic. Take the arms down by your side. So I'm going to slide my heel up, float to tabletop, slide my heel down, and then glide it along the floor with a little bit of press when I get to the end. Glide the heel up, tabletop, arc the other heel down. So there's always a moment in our femur arc first, and then I slide the leg down the mat. So hopefully your mat is not sticky. Okay, then I slide the heel up, tabletop, arc the heel down, slide it along, and then give it a little press once it's in that kind of long line. So I'm just activating the back of the legs to help me open the front of the leg. Inhale, whatever breath works for you. Just make sure that you have a rhythm. Good, just watch when that leg goes down, you don't arch your back, okay? So it's really about keeping those upper ribs or those back ribs on the floor. Okay, now come to tabletop, and now we're just gonna get there. So where that leg was long, you're gonna just tap it there, and the other leg is gonna go long up towards the sky. So we're getting a little bit of hamstrings. And then I like to go through tabletop and then try and get that bottom leg to where it was. So it's a longer arc. I have to really concentrate on keeping the leg deep in my hip as it arcs, so I don't get crunching. If you're still getting, if you're getting some clunking, then keep it so that you put the heel down first and then slide the bottom leg as you stretch the top leg. Okay, so if you're getting any clunking as you lower that long lever, yeah, then you need to put your heel down first and then slide it out. Just means the leg is coming out of the hip and you're relying a bit too much on the front of the hip to stabilize you, okay? So you might need to connect into the back of the leg. I always feel like I'm pushing into the air a little bit as I go down. So maybe just one more on each side. So stretching the hamstrings a little bit, stretching the hip flexors, but it's very active. And then come back to center. And then feel how your pelvis is, especially with the Franklin ball. You're going to feel a big difference when you come back down to the floor. So worthwhile. These are definitely worthwhile having. Everyone, like the squashy bowl and the med bowl for, you know, there's so many things that we can do. Okay, take your head block away. Bring your feet a little bit closer. And we're going to go into our bridge, but we're going to do a lopsided bridge. Okay, so put your hands at the front of the pelvis. Melt down into your heels equally just to hover the pelvis off. And at this point, make sure that you haven't tensed anything. So let go of your butt cheeks, let go of your hamstrings, maybe let go of your tummy if you've started to contract there, and just hover for a moment. And when you hover, you should feel that the back of the legs are just kind of in waiting, right? They're there, they're on it, a light little flicker, but they're not tense. Okay, now as I push down into my right foot, my right heel, I feel my big toe as well, so I'm not just pushing my heel. I want to let that right hip lead. So it's going up into the bridge. So I'm basically getting a right-sided bridge. My other side is just a little bit lower, but I want to feel from the bum to the hamstring down to that heel. And I want to feel my hip flexor is nice and long on that right side. And then come back down to that little hover. If you want to come all the way to the floor, that's fine. When I get to the hover, I let go. So I try and let go of my butt cheeks, my hamstrings, my belly. I'm just in my feet. And then my left foot presses. And I'm leading into the left-sided bridge. So it's like the left side of my body is in the bridge and my right side of the body is just hanging out. It's not hanging out because it's kind of coming slightly up. Now that side feels different, feels tighter, and then come back down to the hover. Let go of everything, let go. So it's just a little bit off the floor, and then right side again. Melt through your heel, feel your big toe, send your thigh forward, feel that active hip flexor stretch. Could you lengthen your sacrum? Really feel that connection from your bum to your hamstrings. And then come back down to the hover. Let go. Press left foot, left heel, left big toe. Thigh forward. Oh, that one's stickier. Never go too high. If you feel like you're pushing into your low back, come down and send more energy into your leg. Okay, then back to the hover. Let's do one more on each side. We okay with that, guys? All right, so we should really feel one side, glutes and hamstrings. Okay, we might need to tilt a little bit to 12, but it's very internal. Okay, I don't want to shove it. It's very internal. Oh, and back to that hover. Let go of everything. So you're just in your feet, you're in your hips. And then one more time on that left side. And release, this time all the way down to the floor. And just have a moment to let your pelvis kind of settle on the floor. And then see how it feels to come through the middle now. Now that you've felt each side, feel your feet pressing, feel your thighs reaching forward, feel the cheeks, how you found them at the top. And they're not clenching. It's almost like the cheeks are sliding down into my hamstrings. So it never feels like my cheeks are pulling together. Okay, so really watch that with yourself. If you feel like your butt crack is actually being squeezed, you're doing way too much external rotation. Okay, so your crack should be free. That sounds really bad. Okay, so as you go, right? I'm not closing in my bum to the middle. I'm actually really appreciating that I have two legs, okay? And I have two bums on the top of my legs.
So I don't have a bum on my spine. I have a bum on the top of my legs. So let's really feel right and left bums. Okay? I think we kind of put the bum on our back instead of on our legs. One more time. So now I'm really feeling this. Whew. Okay, so the bum is the top of my leg. And so I have right and left half, and I have my spine in the middle. And then softly roll back down. And then hug your knees in. Okay. Now this is where, like, if you don't have a med ball, you're not really going to get the superficial muscles of your bum really stretching. So if you don't have this, I really, really, really advise it, because you're just not going to get the same stuff. So there's two options here. You can use your roller to do your little bum release. So you lie side on your roller, and then you put your leg up, and then you do a little bit of rolling. Now, if that doesn't feel like enough with the roller, which it doesn't really for me, I can feel it now because my bum's just worked. Obviously, anybody with the med ball is doing it with the med ball, or you do it with your lacrosse ball. Okay, so if your roller doesn't do the job, so we lean over, and you can have the leg down. Okay, so I can just have it in a little turned out position. And then I'm just rolling up and down very gently along the fibers of the bum. Ideally, we cross the leg over. Okay. And then we do a little bit of roll. Now with the lacrosse ball, you're obviously going more deep, right? So you're getting into kind of the deeper fibers of glute max and glute med, which is great. But with the med ball, you're going to get the superficial fibers. And sometimes it's the superficial guys that are like when I go on that med ball, it's like a whole different experience. It's like super ouchy and really tight. Feel that, Soph? Yeah. Do you feel that, Katie, on the roller? Is it a bit You feel it, okay? And Val's going to lacrosse ball. Tanya, I don't know if you're on lacrosse ball or roller. You want roller? Do you feel it? Okay. So I'm just very slowly rolling. Roseanne, you okay on your shoulder here? Just be kind here, okay, when you're weight bearing. That we're not losing all that we gained. So this is the complicated thing with the bum, is it can be so tight and yet dysfunctional. You'd think that it would be tight and strong, but definitely with me, it's not. I really struggle to find that fine line between kind of it being strong and just being tight all the time. Okay, so change to the other side unless you want to stay there longer, of course. I probably could stay there for another 5 minutes to be fair. Okay, so you could have the leg down. Make sure when you're crossing over, you are leaning onto that side. Okay, so you want to be right over on that butt cheek. Yeah, and then you're going kind of up and down from your sit bone, kind of down towards the back of the leg. So that's the angle you want to work through. I don't think they're that much. I think you can get med balls now from Amazon. Just be careful because some people have bought them and they're squishy. So just make sure they're hard. But yeah, I would say 3-4 kilos, because then you can use them in your classes as well as a weight, which is quite nice as a change. We've still got another 5 weeks, I think, of being online. So you might as well take advantage and do some of this stuff. Okay. Awesome. So I would use the lacrosse ball over the Franklin ball. And those of you that have the med ball, especially Roseanne, I think it's just Roseanne and Sophie that have it. You're going to really feel this, because I've never done this before. And this is in our new functional patterns course. We've had an update. So some really new releasing techniques, which are really good. Okay, so lacrosse ball on the front of your chest. We're actually going to put the med ball at the front of the chest. Okay, so you're going to lie in between your boob and your shoulder. Okay, and you're going to get that med ball there, or you're going to get your lacrosse ball there. Now, if you can like prop the lacrosse ball up a little bit, so if you've got like a head block that you can put on and then lay yourself on, that might work nicely. Okay, so it's a very different feeling than being on the wall. You feel that, Soph? Yeah, Roseanne, is that okay for you, hon? It's strong. And I'm kind of going like towards the top part of my shoulder. So I'm kind of getting the ball like underneath and then rolling onto the top part here, like by my collarbone side. So don't go kind of too much like under the boob and in the armpit side. It's more like top of the shoulder. You guys with the lacrosse ball still feeling that? Yeah, cool. So it's up to you where your head goes. I just like my head just kind of being in the middle, but you guys that are more on the floor, you might want to turn your head away or turn the head towards. And if you felt like you wanted to move around a little bit, very gently, that's cool. So I'm kind of just moving towards my arm a little bit. Can you feel how different that is than the lacrosse ball on the wall, guys? Yeah, it's kind of nice, isn't it? I really like it. Is that okay for you, Roseanne? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so just do a few more breaths here. So it's different because your body weight is really resting on it, right? On the wall, we don't kind of fully rest on it. Okay, let's change sides. So this side's not as bad as I felt on the Franklin wall. Obviously my right-handed side does more work. So, oh, got a spot there. So just be careful where you are, that you're not kind of going into like nerve tissue and not too close to the actual armpit and your lymph nodes. But you're also not on your boob tissue either. So make sure you're in between your boob and your arm. Just surrender to the ball. Little bit of gentle moving around. Really gentle. And then softly release. And then just get your body into kind of our swan position. Now I'm going to take my hands underneath my head a little bit. I'm actually going to go a little bit wider because I want to enjoy this experience here in my shoulder. I don't now want to close my shoulders down. So kind of feel for you where you would like your arms, so you kind of keep creating this space. So maybe it's more down, maybe it's out to, no, so that closes my shoulder. So I'm going to go about there. And then wiggle your legs down. Get the legs nice and parallel. Wiggle your pelvis so that you really feel the imprint into the mat. And then just let your belly let go. So let your belly fully surrender to the floor. Sometimes we actually hold a bit of tension in our tummies. So just let your belly fully relax. And you might find your knees relax and your thighs relax, which is good. Okay, and then gently drop the wall of your belly and feel like your legs just come back to parallel. If they kind of flopped out to the side, try and get them back so that the thighs and the knees and the shins all face down. And then relax the belly, relax your legs. And then draw your belly up very gently and connect through the inner legs. So I try never to tense my knees when I'm doing this prone work. I try and really keep my knees relaxed and the front of my thighs relaxed. Okay, so for wherever your arms are, I want you to just start to come up a little bit into extension. This is just to give space. And then I want you to think of that traction we did at the beginning. So I'm going to start to open my arms, and my fingertips are just going to stay on the floor right now. And I'm going to start to open my arms away from my body through the front. So I'm opening up my pecs and reaching my arms away from my body. I'm just hovering. And then if you can you spiral your arms so that the thumbs rotate towards the ceiling? Okay, now if you're getting a lot of pinching in your upper traps, then you haven't opened through the front enough. You might need to adjust where your arms are. You might start a little bit wider, okay, and then you lower your head and upper body back down. Let your belly relax, let your legs relax, and then belly lifts a little bit, inner thighs connect. And I just come up enough to give myself space, and then opening from the front, so from the sternum, out across the collarbones. Okay, just play with where your arms need to be. Do you want your hands on the floor? Do you want them slightly hovered? Are you going up too high in your back as you're doing this? Maybe the arms just go to a little bit of a bent position, and that's enough for you to open. And then you come back in. So really lots of playing, okay? So I want you to find a strategy where you can open and traction across. And it might be that you go just to there, you don't go to a full arm, okay? And there's a little rotation in the arms, okay? So there's always, if we're in internal here, we externally spiral and traction, okay? So there's always a little external rotation through the arms. We feeling okay with that? So this is an active opening, right? And you should be feeling some stuff in the shoulder blades. There should be some activity going on there. Can you, from wherever you are, bring your arms down by your side into kind of your dart position? Can you keep spiraling your upper arm around so the back of your arm is really lifting? So my palms are down, but they could be in. They could be in towards you, but I'm trying to spiral so that the upper arm is really, really open. I'm trying not to go too high because then I go into my back. Woo! And then I'm going to totally relax my arms back because that was quite hard. Okay, so we're going to come from wherever was comfortable here. We're going to come up into that little bit of a hover. Okay, my belly is connected, my legs are connected to the inner thighs. I'm going to try and spread my wings out from the front to where I can, even if that's just a bent elbow. And then I'm going to try and rotate the arms around, not depressing the shoulders. And see where my arms can end up back here, where I'm open through those front muscles. And then relax and slide them back around. Okay, I just kind of flop them back. Okay, let's try and do one more if we can. Okay, if it's too much, just work on the extension, maybe leave the arms out, whatever feels good for you. Okay, but we don't want strain. There's work and then there's strain. Okay, so you have to navigate this. You might even have your palms down as your shoulders open. So maybe having the hands up is too much. And then I can slide my fingertips along the floor and still get this nice opening. So that feels quite nice as well for me, having my fingertips down, but being able to open through the front. It's just about playing a little bit with yourself. Yeah, so that actually feels better than when my hands are up. When my fingertips are down, I can open my shoulders a little bit more. Woo! And then release. Yeah, good. It's looking better, Katie. Okay, very careful, because that would be a lot of work there. And so just kind of go with what serves you. Do you want to really kind of open up the shoulder blades? Do you want to maybe open up more your low back a little bit more? So kind of go, or maybe you want to go between the two. I'm going to avoid weight bearing today. So I think when we go weight bearing, we tend to load up those pecs. So I'm going to kind of keep those out of the equation today. So totally going off plan. That's the beauty of online. We can go wherever we like. Okay, so I think what would be good is adding some spirals. So we open up this area. So let's go into a little half roll back. So I really like a half roll back with one leg straight. I've been playing with this a little bit. So let's have our right leg straight. Okay, and then roll back. You can either hold underneath the leg. I think we did this the other day, actually. Now, be careful. We've done all this yummy, juicy stuff here in the shoulders. So I don't want you now closing up that pectoral area. Okay, I'm not saying you're pulling back the shoulders, but just don't let your shoulders kind of close in. Now, see if you can hold the one leg. This is kind of like the tree on the reformer, if you've ever done that on the short box. So I'm kind of in this balanced place where I'm just a little bit back of my sit bones. I'm kind of on the very bottom of my sacrum. I could maybe go a little bit further, but then I start to twist a little bit. Okay, so I'm just kind of seeing where my lever is. Okay, and then sit up nice and tall. So roll back the pelvis. Remember, it's the pelvis that rolls you back. It's not your spine. Your spine is just going for the ride. Check your shoulders aren't closing in. And then can we roll back? Not really putting a lot of effort here, ladies. I'm not really squeezing anything. I'm just trying to roll and find where I'm not going to fall back. And come back up. Okay, we okay with that? Yeah? All right, so one more time. And then there's this nice feeling of the leg that's on the floor kind of feeding forward a little bit as I roll back. So it's just a nice little energy there. Okay, we're gonna hold right around that leg. So I'm gonna take my right arm and hold and hug. And then can you rotate towards the leg? Now you might feel you need to go hand on the floor to rotate. That feels quite nice. But if you can balance and then come back up. Is that okay? Yeah, a little bit hip flexor gripping. Okay, so if you're gripping in your hip flexor, you're turning too much. Okay, it might be that actually your spiral in your shoulders is not enough. So Val, try holding with both arms and then just rotating your spine towards your leg. But relax your hip. Maybe you're going too far down. Yeah, feel the back of your leg connect. Feel the heel. So a couple options. You just turn towards your leg. You have the one arm out to the side turning, or you're balancing. Oh, that's quite hard, the balancing one. So you could have your, yeah, if I put my hand down, my hip lets go. So try that. That help? And does the hip flexor, yeah. It's just that you're actually using your hip flexor as the lever instead of your core, okay? So take it to the other side. Also notice here, like, are you holding on here, right? If I'm holding on to that long lever, no, I've got to brush that tension away from my front of the leg as I go down. So I'm really trying to lengthen my hip flexor as I go down. And even actually just thinking about that, I went down a little bit further. And then come back. So we're on the other leg now, yeah? Okay, so brushing that long leg tension away. I'm rolling my pelvis away from my leg. It might be just that this side is better. Yeah, does that help, Val? Yeah, you have to mentally, like, sometimes understand, like, what's stabilizing you. And the hip flexors are such a dominant stabilizer, and we need to go deeper. We need to get those transverse muscles to actually support us a little bit more. Okay, watch, I was closing my shoulders a little bit. Okay, so we have a couple options. We can hug, okay, around the leg, and then we can do a little spiral. So I'm not even rotating, I'm not even going down that far. or you can hug with both arms and rotate, or you can try if you want to and do a little balance. But I quite like the hands on the floor. And then come back up.
Okay, we'll just do one more of those. So roll back.
So I'm not going back as far, I'm just tipping back of my sit bone, rotating to my leg, and then hand to the floor. And release. Good, let's do a nice assisted roll back to get us down. So roll, and again, watch, we're not closing through the front. Okay, because then we're defeating all that yummy stuff that we did at the beginning. Okay. So let's play with some kind of really relaxed tabletop positions with the arms out to the side. Now, I think what happens with our side to side is we try so hard to push the shoulders back. I really want you guys to be quite relaxed with your shoulders. I also don't have my arms too high up because that's kind of straining. So I have my arms like where they feel really flopped. So maybe do a bit of like flopping them, and where do they flop to? Okay, they usually don't flop way up here. Bring them down a little bit lower, so they should be below your shoulders. Okay, so my legs are open. I'm gonna roll over to one side with my legs open, and then they kind of close. Now, at that point, I can feel a little bit of stretch in my opposite shoulder, but my shoulder came off the ground. Okay, my back of the shoulder is not on the ground. And then can I bring the shoulder blade and then the back of the ribs, and then my legs can kind of unwind and come back. So my legs are apart. Okay, I take the first leg, the closest one to the floor down, and then they're separated. And then when they come together, this opposite shoulder comes off. Now, if I try and pull that shoulder blade back and try and keep it on the floor, it's going to feel really shit, and I'm going to pull into my back muscles. So I'm letting it come, and I still feel a stretch there. The back of my hand is on the floor. And then my leg, my shoulder comes back, my ribs come back, and then my legs uncoil. Is that okay, guys? Does that make sense? I think we're really conditioned to like push these shoulders back. We really don't want to. Okay, I want to just allow the legs to tug on my elastic here of my pecs. I actually feel more stretch there than if I try and keep my shoulder on the floor. Does everyone feel that little stretch in their opposite arm? Yeah? Okay. And then I bring the back of the shoulder back to the floor, then the ribs, and then the legs come back. So do that a few more times. If there's one side that's particularly tight, then stay there a little bit more. And then my shoulder comes back, my ribs come back, my legs uncoil. You could have the legs together, but I find when we do these side to sides where the legs are together, and I do it sometimes, I find it very loading, whereas this is kind of like a little bit more unloading, and it feels a little bit more natural on the elastic. It's definitely tighter that side, I think, than this side. Yeah, that side feels okay. So it's definitely my right side. Do one more on your tighter side. And then release all the way back. And then just stretch your legs down, almost letting your spine kind of extend a little bit. So when your legs go down, for the most part, most people extend their spine. I definitely do, unless I'm really, really, released. And just carefully as your arms go overhead, you might even find that extension gets even greater. Right? When I bring my arms overhead, now my ribs are lifted and my back is lifted. So can you bring the pelvis back to drag the legs? And can you bring the ribs back to drag the arms? Okay, and then we're back to this lovely neutral position where my back ribs are on, my pelvis is neutral. Okay, now as you go back out, resist the urge to extend. Okay, maybe you do one more where you just let everything go into extension, so go bleh. Okay, so let the legs go down, let the back arch, let the ribs come up, let your boobs lift. Okay, then kind of bring the pelvis back to drag the legs. Bring the ribs back to drag the arms. Does everyone feel that? So it's a really like reversed core crunch. Okay, so now when my legs go out and my arms go out, I don't want to have the arch in my back. I'm trying to resist the arch. So I'm actually feeling what I felt when the limbs came in. Now I can't go as far. Let the shoulder blades glide up. Ugh. And then I even go even more, and I'm shuddering and shaking to bring the limbs back in. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, okay. So as I go out, I'm trying to keep the stability. I don't want to arch the back. I'm not overly pressing down my low back, but I'm really connecting to my sacrum and definitely to my back ribs. And then I kind of get a sticky point. I let the shoulder blades elevate. I let the front of the hips try and open. Ugh. And then even more connection as I bring my legs and my arms back. So that was like a deep core to bring it back. Does everyone feel that kind of deep core when you bring it back? Yeah? Okay, show me one more time. So sliding the legs, hopefully you're able to slide those feet easy, okay? And don't let the back arch. Yeah, so I don't want those legs and arms going further than what your spine can allow. Okay, so even if the legs don't go all the way, yeah, that's it, Val. Okay, and if they're not getting all the way, what could you do to allow them to go a little bit further? Maybe it's a little bit more 12 and a little bit more hips and a bit more shoulder blades lifting. And then really connecting through the middle to bring you back in. Yeah, nice, good. Just hug the legs in. Do a nice little side to side. Let's do a little bit of a mermaid. Let's do a little mermaid where we kind of keep the shoulders kind of more open. I'm just kind of thinking which one I want to do. Let's do it. Let's do kind of a reformer inspired. So prop yourself up if side sitting isn't happy for you. Z sit. Feels a bit sticky in here today. Okay, so lift your bum up. If this bum is slightly lifted, you need to sit on a block. Okay, so if your bum is slightly lifted, you need to sit on a block. Otherwise, you're going to be skew-whiff. That's a bit better. Okay, so sit up nice and tall. So this arm here, I just want you to just roll your roller. Okay, roll your roller away, but really feel like you're kind of this tractioning feeling a little bit across the collarbone. Okay, so actually my arm is coming out and in more from my shoulder blade than from the front of my arm. It's coming from my shoulder blade out and in. Okay, so just feel that. And then when we come up into here, I'm still open. So I don't close this in. I'm still open. So where can the arm go where it doesn't start pulling you into the front? Okay, so maybe there, maybe there, maybe there. If you can go there and it still stays open here, but sometimes when it goes here, it closes in the front. Okay, so then I'm going to tip my little teapot and I'm going to move that roller away and I'm still open here. Good, so I'm just rolling my roller away. Okay, now if you feel like you close, you can do this. Have the hands kind of reaching away from one another. That's really nice. And just kind of play with where I can get my sides, but it doesn't bring me into the front and then come back. Yeah, now you've also got to look here. Are you putting pressure into this side? Okay, so I'm trying to also take the pressure away from this side. I'm actually not weight bearing on this arm. It at any time could come off. Yeah, so it's very, very light. So if you're leaning, it means you're not lifting, okay? If you're leaning, you're not lifting through your front, through your middle, okay? So what you're doing is you're sagging yourself down, okay? So what you've got to do is lift through your middle and maybe not, but that's better, Katie, okay? So if you feel you can't do this, that means you're compressing. Yeah, good, good, good. Okay, one more time, up. And then I just want you to very gently rotate in through your other side. Feel the body rotating, but without closing the shoulder down. So I feel this across my thoracic spine. And then come back out to where you want to be with that arm, and then return. Yeah? Other side. So I think it's sometimes in the exercises that aren't even pec dominant that sometimes we take over there. You know, we have this bias to be here closed, and even in these frontal plane things that we want to be kind of open here. Okay, so just do a little bit of moving your roller away, feeling where your shoulder is positioned. Can you feel that sense of traction that we felt at the beginning with the little Franklin ball? And then up, find where this feels happy, okay, where it's not closing in. Yeah, maybe it's here, maybe it's here, maybe it's there, okay? And then I'm a little teapot. So this side is different. This side, my body wants to collapse into it because this side is shorter for me. So I almost need to lean back into this side a little bit more. I'm trying to not go as far with my roller. I'm also closing in my arms. This is very, very different. And out. So the side that's already compressed, we don't want to compress it more. So I don't need to go as far on this side. I need to almost lift more. So I'm going to do things that make me lift and make me come out of this shoulder. So you can see I'm actually going more up on this side. Whereas the other side, because I can move it more and I want to stretch it more, then I can go more to the roller. So feel that difference for you. Yeah, keep lifting through your center. Good. Let your head respond, Tanya, because your head looks like it's resisting. Yeah, there. Okay, so you don't want your head kind of going the opposite way. Okay, now on this one, we go over where we are, where it feels good, and I'm not closing my shoulder in, I'm rotating my trunk. And if I feel like I'm closing in my pecs, I've gone too far. So I'm not shortening in the front, I'm rounding and rotating through the back. And then come back out to where you were, wherever feels good. And then lift all the way back. Nice.